Imagine this. A boy no older than 12, soaking wet under a freezing rain, stands in front of a man who looks more like a corpse than a person. The old man is curled on a park bench, barely breathing, while people walk by without even a glance. The boy's fingers are frozen, but what he does next will make your chest tighten. From his backpack, he pulls out an envelope. Inside is everything, his future, his dream, his hope, and in a single moment, he gives it all away. But what he doesn't know is who that man really is. Before we continue the story, tell us where you're watching from and where you're from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and share this story with your friends or loved ones to help spread something positive through storytelling. May you be rewarded for subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this story. Now, let's continue. Snow was falling gently over the streets of New York. The sidewalks were wet, the air sharp like glass. In the middle of the noise and lights, a small boy walked with quiet steps. His name was Eli Walker. Eli was just 12 years old, but he had already lived through more pain than most people twice his age. He had no mother, no father, no home of his own. He stayed in a small shelter, sharing space with other forgotten children. But today meant something. Clutched close to his chest, inside his torn jacket, was an envelope filled with dollar bills and coins. Eli had spent months working part-time, skipping meals, and cleaning floors to save that money. It was enough to pay for school, his dream school. He had imagined this day 100 times. Handing the envelope to the school office, sitting in a classroom, learning music, art, literature, becoming someone. But life, as always, had other plans. As he passed through the city park, his steps slowed. On a rusted bench under a flickering street lamp lay an old man. His face was sunken, his clothes wet and ripped, his hands trembled. People walked past like he didn't exist. Eli stared. Something in the man's face, something about the way his chest barely moved, made Eli stop. "Sir," Eli whispered. "No answer." The man looked like he hadn't eaten in days. His skin was pale, his lips blue, and his eyes, barely open, carried a sadness that pierced deep. Eli's fingers reached into his jacket. He felt the edge of the envelope. His whole body shook. He looked down at it. His ticket out of this life. Then he looked at the man again, and without a word, Eli stepped forward. He slipped the envelope into the man's coat. Carefully, quietly. Then he took off the scarf around his neck, the only warm thing he had, and wrapped it around the old man's shoulders. "Please, stay alive," he whispered with tears in his eyes. Eli turned and ran, not because he was afraid, but because if he stayed any longer, he would change his mind. Across the street, inside a black car, a man in a sharp suit had just exited. He had seen the whole thing. That man's name was William Grayson, and the old man on the bench was someone he never thought he would see again. The sky over New York was still gray the next morning. Cold wind slipped through the narrow spaces between tall buildings. Inside a quiet private office on the 40th floor, William Grayson stood by the window, staring at the city that had built him and buried his past. He hadn't slept. All night the face of that old man haunted him. That face, wrinkled and broken, looked too familiar. William reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small photo. A photo of a man holding a baby. The man had strong arms, soft eyes, and a warm smile. His name was Thomas. William's father. Gone for 25 years. William had always been told that Thomas abandoned the family, that he left when things got hard, that he never came back. But what if that wasn't true? What if the man dying on that bench was his father. He closed his eyes and replayed the scene again. The boy, the scarf, the envelope. Who was that kid? William muttered. Something inside him stirred. Guilt, regret. He couldn't tell, but it burned. Without thinking, William grabbed his coat and stormed out of the office. At the same moment, miles away, Eli sat on a wooden floor, hugging his knees. The shelter was quiet. Morning light spilled through the cracks in the blinds, but Eli's world had already gone dark. His school money, gone. He hadn't told anyone, not even Mrs. Carter, the kind shelter worker who believed in him more than anyone. How could he? But then, the door opened. Eli, a soft voice called. It was Mrs. Carter. She held a letter in her hand. This came for you. Eli stood slowly and took the letter. His name was written on the front, neatly, carefully, almost too carefully. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a scholarship letter. His eyes widened. His heart raced. He read the words once, then again. Someone had paid his full tuition. His school dream was alive. But how? He looked out the window, still holding the letter, when a soft knock came at the front door. "Excuse me," said a deep voice. "I'm looking for a boy named Eli Walker." Eli turned around. There, standing tall in a dark grey coat, was William Grayson. His eyes locked onto Eli's, and in that moment, neither of them knew how much their lives were about to change. Eli's breath caught in his throat. The man standing at the shelter door looked like he belonged in a magazine. Polished shoes, a clean suit, and a face so serious it made the room feel colder. Eli had never seen him before, but the way the man stared, it felt personal. Mrs. Carter stepped forward. "Can I help you, sir?" William Grayson nodded politely, but his eyes stayed on Eli. "I saw something yesterday. In the park. A boy gave everything he had to a man on a bench. That boy is him." Mrs. Carter looked confused. Eli's hands started to tremble. "I don't know what you're talking about," Eli mumbled, trying to step back. But William walked closer, gently. "You didn't do it for praise or reward. You just walked away." Eli looked down, his throat tightened. He looked like he was dying, he whispered. William knelt to Eli's eye level. "I think that man was my father." The room fell, silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. "I haven't seen him in 25 years, William continued. "I thought he left us. But now, I'm not so sure." Eli blinked. "Why would he be on a bench all alone?" "I don't know," William said softly. "But you didn't leave him there, and I need your help to find him again." Eli hesitated. "I gave him the envelope, but I don't know where he went after that." William reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card. "If you see him again, if you even hear anything, call me, please." Eli took the card. He nodded once. Before leaving, William looked back. "By the way, your school, it's taken care of." Eli's head snapped up. "You?" William smiled faintly. "A small thank you." But across the city, something darker was happening. In a small alley behind a liquor store, the old man, Thomas, lay curled in pain. Someone had stolen the envelope. His coat was torn, his face bloodied, the scarf gone. He tried to speak, but his voice was broken. People passed him like a ghost, until one man stopped. Dirty boots, rough hands, a voice like gravel. "Look what we have here," the man said, squatting down. "You owe me, Thomas. You really thought you could disappear forever?" Thomas looked up, weakly. His lips trembled. "Please." The man grinned. "You forgot, old friend. Some debts never die." And then, the sound of a truck engine starting, followed by silence. Back at the shelter, Eli stared out the window, heart still racing. Somewhere out there was a man no one wanted except maybe Eli, and a billionaire who just realized he might still have a father. Rain had started to fall again. Slow, cold, unforgiving. William sat alone in the back of his car, eyes scanning every street as they moved through the city. His phone buzzed with meetings and calls. He ignored them all. Nothing mattered now. But one thing, Thomas. The man who disappeared when William was 7. The man who used to sing him to sleep. The man he was taught to hate. And now, the man who might still be alive, dying on some street corner without a name. His driver spoke through the intercom. "Sir, the precinct said they picked up an older man matching your description. Homeless, injured. You want to take a look?" William's heart jumped. "Take me there. Now." Meanwhile, Eli couldn't sleep. He sat on the shelter's rooftop, hugging his knees against the wind. In his pocket, William's business card felt heavy. Something didn't sit right. The old man, Thomas, had looked so weak, so tired. He could have died last night. What if he already had? Suddenly the rooftop door creaked open. It was Mrs. Carter. She held a flashlight in one hand, a blanket in the other. "Eli, you okay?" "I think I need to find him," Eli said, his voice shaking. Mrs. Carter sighed and sat beside him. "Most kids your age think about games or candy," she whispered. "But you? You gave up everything." Eli's voice cracked. "I didn't do it to be good. I saw someone hurting. I know how that feels." She wrapped the blanket around his shoulders. "If you really want to find him," she said gently, "you're not going alone." Back at the police station, William stepped into a narrow hallway. The air smelled of bleach and cigarette smoke. A young officer led him down a row of holding rooms. William's hands trembled. Then they stopped. Room 6. The officer opened the viewing window. William leaned forward and saw a man slouched against the wall, head down, dirty, bruised, unmoving. "Thomas Grayson?" William asked softly. No response. The officer shrugged. "He won't speak. No ID. We found him behind a liquor store. Bad shape." William stared harder. The man's hands, his jaw, the curve of his nose. And then, the man lifted his head. Their eyes met. For a second, time froze. A tear slid down William's cheek. "Dad?" he whispered. But inside the room, the old man just stared, empty, as if the name meant nothing at all. That same night, 3 blocks away, Eli and Mrs. Carter reached the park bench, but the bench was empty. Only the scarf remained, soaked and stained with blood. Eli reached down and grabbed it with trembling hands. "He was here," he whispered. "He was here." Then a voice echoed behind him. "You looking for the old man?" Eli turned. A stranger in a hood stepped from the shadows, eyes cold, lips curled into a smile. "If you want to find him, you better move fast." The stranger's voice was calm. Too calm. Eli took a step back as Mrs. Carter moved protectively in front of him. "Who are you?" she asked sharply. The man didn't answer. He just tossed something onto the ground, a torn corner of an envelope. Eli recognized it instantly. It was his, the one he had given away. The man gave a half smile. "Your little gift didn't go far, kid. The streets, they eat kindness." Eli's fists clenched. "Where is he?" The man looked around. "You sure you want to find him? Some people are better left forgotten." Mrs. Carter stepped forward. "Tell us." The man leaned closer. "There's a place. West Side, abandoned motel. He was taken there by someone who said Thomas owed him, said it was time to pay." Then the man vanished into the shadows. Eli's chest pounded. He looked at Mrs. Carter, eyes full of fire. "We have to go." She nodded. Back at the police station, William stared through the glass, still frozen in disbelief. "Why doesn't he recognize me?" he whispered. The officer sighed. Could be trauma, could be memory loss, could be he just doesn't want to. William shook his head. He was a kind man. I remember that. He didn't just disappear. Then the officer handed William a small item. "We found this in his coat." It was a photo, faded and wet. William's heart dropped. It was a picture of himself, as a boy, holding hands with Thomas, on the back in shaky handwriting. "I never left you. I was taken." William's blood ran cold. He stepped into the room, slowly. "Dad," he said again, louder this time. The man flinched. Then, for the first time, he spoke. "William." William fell to his knees, but before he could say another word, the door slammed open. A detective rushed in. "Grayson, we have a problem." William stood. "What is it?" "Someone's trying to move your father. Now." "We intercepted a call. He's not safe here." William's face turned pale. "Where are they taking him?" The detective hesitated. "West Side. Abandoned motel. You need to get there. Now." At that very moment, Eli and Mrs. Carter arrived at the same place. The motel was falling apart. The windows were shattered. The wind howled through the cracks. Eli gripped the scarf in one hand, stepping into the darkness. Inside, it smelled of rust and old secrets. Down the hall, voices. Eli crept closer. He peeked through a broken door and saw him, Thomas, tied to a chair, bloody, weak, barely breathing, and beside him, the same man from the alley. "You still owe me." The man growled. "You think time erases debt?" Thomas coughed. "I have nothing left." The man raised his fist. Eli couldn't breathe. Then suddenly, tires screeched outside, doors slammed, and a voice shouted from the front, "Police, drop your weapon." William Grayson stormed into the room behind them, rage in his eyes. The man turned in shock, and in that instant, everything exploded. Time slowed. The sound of sirens filled the air as officers stormed the abandoned motel. Shouts echoed through the hallway, guns drawn, flashlights cutting through the dark. Inside the room, William lunged forward, just as the man beside Thomas raised a crowbar. "Drop it!" William shouted, but the man didn't listen. His grip tightened. Then, bang! A single shot rang out. The crowbar hit the ground. The man collapsed. Thomas flinched in the chair, gasping for air, trembling. William ran to him, eyes wide with panic. "Dad, it's me, it's William." Thomas stared at him, dazed, bleeding, but something shifted behind his eyes. Recognition. "William," he whispered. William dropped to his knees, cutting the ropes with shaking hands. "I thought you were dead. I thought you left." Thomas coughed. "I was taken. They made me disappear. I tried to get back. I tried." William's tears fell freely. "Why didn't you tell anyone? They threatened you. Your mom. I gave them everything, even my name." Suddenly from the doorway, Eli stepped in, his small frame lit by the hallway lights. William turned. "You shouldn't be here." But Eli ran forward, clutching the scarf. "You forgot this." He wrapped it gently around Thomas's shoulders. Thomas looked at him and smiled. "You," he whispered. "You saved me." Eli wiped his eyes. "I didn't know who you were. I just knew you needed help." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Sacred. Then the medics rushed in. They took Thomas onto a stretcher. Gently. Carefully. He looked back at William one last time. "Don't forget me again," he said. William nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "Never." Weeks passed. Thomas stayed in the hospital under private care. William visited every day. The past between them couldn't be erased, but it could be faced. And Eli, he received more than just tuition. He received family. William, adopted him into his home. A boy who once had nothing, now had more than he could ever ask for. But Eli never stopped visiting the shelter, never stopped remembering where he came from. Because in a city that forgets the broken, one act of kindness had rewritten destiny. 1. Boy's heart had reunited a lost father with his son, and in that reunion, 3 lives were saved. In a world that often forgets to care, one orphaned boy reminded us all that love doesn't need a reason, only courage. Eli had nothing, yet he gave everything, and through one small act of kindness, he saved 2 broken souls. Because sometimes, Allah hides miracles behind the quiet face of a stranger on a park bench. Thank you for watching this story to the very end. If this story touched your heart, please help us share its message. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. With just one click, you can help spread hope to someone who needs it most. And maybe this story will become the answer to a heart that's silently breaking. See you in the next story. May God reward your kindness with something even more beautiful.